Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and part 3 of the P1 snap build. I haven't had a lot of time lately to get into this work. It's been going a bit crazy and had some family up, so I finally had a bit of a chance to make a little bit more progress on it. So I wanted to get started with just documenting it before I get too far ahead. End of the last video, we were sort of knocking off the end of the transom of the boat. I've just been working a little bit on the rudder and how I'm going to seal that area up. I'll get into that shortly. We spoke about getting it loaded up with the electronics, CG, and we're also finishing off the hatch. So speaking of the hatch, progress has been made. I got the push tabs installed. I had to fill in the old holes and re-drill all that out. Now, as I mentioned, sometimes when you do an inlay, these buggers don't like to fit anymore, which is exactly what's happening here. And this sort of goes back to why I was trying to have it set with it actually inside the hull, but we averted a crisis there because the glue was leaking. So I can still get this to fit in. It squeezes in, it's not too bad. The push tabs all work very seamlessly and smooth. So I'm very happy with that install. All we need to do now is make this a little bit nicer in here, a bit more epoxy. I'm just going to have to do it slowly, I think, because it's not perfectly flat. So you can't just put a whole heap of glue there or it runs everywhere, but that's minor details. We need to get a front pin installed, and other than that, it needs a little bit of foam installed under the hatch on the inside. So that's all pretty straightforward stuff. You can see there those through pins are all glued in and they're not going anywhere. Onto the rudder. So I've got a fairly beefy servo here. It's a ProTech 170 TBL. It's got to be in the vicinity of 55 kilos, I think, something like that. But it is a hell of a nice servo. I've got it paired up with a 2.5mm rod. I decided maybe 3mm might be a bit much, but everything in it kind of really lines up quite nicely. So the big issue I kind of had, and you can kind of see it there, how the rod is a bit low in there, but once it's sitting up in its mount there, everything is centered up quite nicely. Normally, with a bellow, I run these kinds of things, like that. So you can put that on the inside, passes through, and the nut seals it up, and you can put the bellow over the end there like that. The problem with this boat is with the timber on the transom down the back and the extra carbon I've installed, when I put this through, there's no threads left for me to do it up. Now, I could have just glued this in, but it wouldn't have left me with much to actually attach the bellow onto. So I got to thinking a little bit, and I have this carbon tube here. It's a 12mm tube. I ended up just cutting off a section, as you can see there, and that gives the rod heaps of room to move. Now, I've dummy fitted all up and it's running great. You will get to see it. We're going to be gluing the servo in shortly, and we'll see it all in operation. But very happy with that, how that's turned out. And I have found some different bellows. That's these rubber jobbies here that actually seal. You can see that that is a tiny, well, yeah, it is. It's small. It's not designed to stretch 12mm, but I have found some bellows that are This is not them. I've got to wait for them to come. But they are 9mm on the rear and do between a 1.5 and 3mm sized rod. So perfect for what we are after for this. So I've got those on the way, and that will tidy up the rudder. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get this all installed. I've got this funky little linkage here. I really like these. The only problem with them is they're a little bit skinny sometimes, so you need to file down the actual servo horn to get it nice and free. I've just Loctited that nut on, so it's yeah, there's not going to be any of this play in it once everything is glued down. I decided to mount the servo in this direction on the lower side because it's on the flat part of the hull. Otherwise, I was going to have problems with it sitting in this, I think they call them rakes. Yeah. So that's where that's going to live. And I think we've got the steering sorted out. Ended up gluing in just a couple of other little bits and pieces. Got the water feeds, got the water exits installed. I had to fill in this old sucker here, which is where the antenna is going to come out. So I've got a black antenna holder coming in the post as well. And that's pretty much going to be it, besides painting it on the exterior of the boat. So yeah, pretty happy with that. But look, I did want to also just touch on the inside of the boat. So I should mention I pulled the stinger off and drilled it out a little bit more to center up this shaft. So it's nice and straight now. I am still waiting for the 5/16 shaft to come in. Unfortunately, the shaft I've got here is too short at 300mm, because all these electronics are going to be sitting quite far forward in this boat. It's a huge boat. It's 1.36 meters long from the stern to the tip of the bow. So I touched on where I was going to hopefully be CGing the boat. You can see I've got 3 little black marks there. The back mark is 28%, that is 30%, and that front mark is 33%. So that's kind of where I want to be able to CG the boat at any given time. So all the electronics naturally, which are the heaviest parts of everything in this, are going to be sort of centralized around that. We can see a nice gold colored TP power motor in here. Gone ahead and got the motor mount all just kind of put together. One note, I'm going to have to trim this front clamp down a little bit. I've got to take a little bit off each of these because the front ring is actually not clamping the motor down, unfortunately. So I have had that before on these TFL mounts. So they just need to take just a micron off so that when you do it up, it actually clamps down on the motor itself. The rear ring is fine, but it's a bit tricky with these because the TPs use these screws in the side here, and obviously it limits you to where you can, how far back you can slide that rear ring. It does fit. This is a TP 5660 sized motor, and you can get the water jacket on just perfect. So I did mention that originally I'd picked up an 800 kV motor. Now, between this and my other boat, which is 12S, I've obviously just somehow confused myself. This was only going to swing 20-something thousand RPM, which is just no shot. It's too little. So the 1356 is another motor I had just around, and because I'm running 8S in this boat, not 12S, so this is going to be swinging up more like 40,000 RPM, which is more than I wanted to actually spin. But you know, I can replace the motor later. I think more like 1100 kV is really where I'd like to be, but it's what I've got, and I don't really want to spring for a new motor right now. So we're going to rock it. If I have to turn the end point down on the throttle, I will do that just to get that shaft RPM down a little bit. But I want to run 4 batteries in this. All right, so it's going to be 8S still. So we'll run 4 batteries. So each side will be connected in parallel to make 4S on each side. So it will be 10,000 milliamps of 4S on each side, making 10,000 milliamps at 8S in total once we connect them all up. I have sort of got all this mocked up, and currently the CG that I am able to get is sort of not a big enough amount of change when I move the batteries forwards and backwards. I ended up buying these mounts, these sliding battery trays, which I really like, but these are the short ones. TFL do make ones that extend twice as long as these. I think these have about 80 mil off the top of my head, and the bigger ones actually are twice as long. I think they've got 160 mil of slide in them. So I've bought those. I've also bought sort of like a flat carbon tray. So what I may end up doing is mounting the ESC with 2 statically mounted batteries on either side, and potentially just use these and slide these packs back and forward, or I'll just use the new mounts and just have all the batteries be able to slide all the way forward, all the way back. So I've just got to get that in the mail and pop it in and see where we land once we start running that. But we will see that obviously when those parts come in the next week or two. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and get this servo glued in. And yeah, we'll see what else I can squeeze into this video. Very good. Well, we have 1 servo installed. Pretty happy with how that turned out. Got all the push rod all cut to length. I put little flats on them with the Dremel, and it centers up pretty dang well with that piece of carbon. Still got to glue that bit of carbon in, but overall that's perfect. So you can see there it's got plenty of clearance. I wonder if I can get that to focus up there. Sorry guys. Very good. This motor is going to be a weapon. I think it could be a bit much. If I'm perfectly honest, just hearing it run is pretty crazy. I'll see if I can actually give this a free rev. How will... There we go. Alrighty guys, it's been a couple of weeks or so since or a week or so since I last spoke to you about progress on this sucker. Not much has really happened while I've been waiting for the postman to come. We got the servo glued in. We talked a little bit about I'm waiting on the new battery trays to come in. I went ahead and just cut up a bit of foam and painted that black. That's going to slot nicely up into the bow of the boat. I'll slide some pool noodles up the left and right side of that, so that'll be plenty of flotation going on there. Canopy, I just put the pin up the front, just a little bit of 3mm tube, so that slots in quite nicely now, sits all flush, and like I said, I've got those rear pins all happy now, so with a slight squeeze, that canopy goes in nicely. Bit of foam in the canopy, bit of extra epoxy on that steel mesh or wire mesh, and that'll all be done. Now, a couple of things come in. I got this oiler in. I also got my new big long 5/16 tube. This was the original one I had. It's only 300 mil long. Long story short, we're going to need a few different pieces of copper tubing here to build this out how I want it. So I think I explained that the Stinger accepts actual regular quarter scale copper tubing, which is on the right there. That's the 5/16 tube. You can see is a bit smaller in the middle. And then I've actually got this thick walled quarter scale stuff. So the inner diameter is the same as regular quarter scale, but it is a 10 mil outer diameter versus, I want to say that's like 7.5 or 8 mil thereabouts, 8 mil, something like that. So this oiler actually requires a 10 mil outer diameter tube to slot in, to secure it in place. Whereas the Stinger requires a regular 1/4 inch tube. And then also the shaft support that I have, it's just a little piece of carbon, which, here it is. It's just this guy here, okay? That accepts regular 1/4 inch tube. So to that effect, what I've gone ahead and done, just making a mess. So this guy here, this is the thick-walled 10 mil brass. So that's actually going to fit into the oiler. All right, I'm running out of height here because this bloody tube is so long. When I cut it to length, I'll end up cutting some sections of the regular quarter scale stuff. One piece will sit sort of, I don't know, halfway along the 5/16 tube, and then another piece is going to sit down towards the end of the tube where it slots into the Stinger. So I'll use a sealant to connect them all up. We'll see all that in the next video anyway, but I just wanted to show you what was coming up, because once those new battery trays come in, the bellows, the antenna mount, we'll really start making some progress here. And this is not far off being ready to go. I do need to work on a prop to get something together that's going to work. I do just have like I think a 55 mil 3 blade there, which I'm going to throw on, and I don't know, we'll run it on 6S to begin with, see how that goes. But ultimately, yeah, I do want this on 8S, so we've got to get the prop choice right. The beautiful thing about the XLX2s is that data logging function that it has, so I can really dive in and see what the boat's doing at partial throttle, full throttle, over time, all that sort of good stuff. So, oh, one last thing. If anyone is after a long bit of this 5/16 stuff to build a boat that does not require a Teflon shaft liner, this is the part number. All right, 1151. K&S Precision Metals make it. It is exactly the same as 8133. It's just a lot longer. So anyway, guys, that's it for this video. I know not a whole lot's been done, but coming up, we're about to really start cracking with this sucker, and we'll get to see these new battery trays, which I'm really excited about. And yeah, it's going to start coming together. So thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.